Now, I'm going to be presenting secrets to living longer, right? And we're going to start, of course, with this is the health message presentation, right? We're going to look at the blue zones, but I'm going to try to examine how we are connected to our roots, what connects us as Adventists, right? There are many belief systems, right, that we hold that are 28 fundamental doctrines, but other, believers, they believe the same things, and sometimes they do it better than we do, right? But there are a few very unique beliefs that we as Adventists share, and I want to focus in on those this week. I'm going to actually be presenting some of the topics with the younger children, 7 to 12, and the teens, because as Pastor Berdal said, if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, right, you yourself don't understand it. And I want you to know that the connectedness as Adventists is an important topic. It's very important that we be connected to our roots. But I believe what's more important is that we're connected to our families. That's our first ministry. I was asking, actually, Doug and his wife, and I said, this is so amazing. You've got Damon, you've got Malcolm, you've got your kids that Karina isn't here, right? But what is the secret, right? I'm telling you the secret's to living long, but what's the secret to keeping your kids in the church, right? Parents, I know many parents, even here, they would kill to even have one of their kids here, let alone running the ministry, right? What is the secret? And she said something very profound. So this is actually another statistic for avoiding divorce, which is, of course, one of the most devastating things you can do to shorten your life is divorce, right? Keeping together and married, even if it's actually a bad marriage, has been shown to lengthen your life. Obviously, if you're being like beaten or, whatever, that's a different thing. But sticking it out, even though it's hard, it's tiresome, this is like sucking the life out of me, Lord, right? That is actually better than divorce, they've found. And it's hard to believe that, but it is actually true. There's many things that seem odd to us, but God's order is actually the correct order. Even if it doesn't always feel right to you. But the statistics show that you can prevent 99% of divorces by simply having the husband and wife pray together every day. However, there is another statistic that nobody knows. You have to dig and dig and dig because the enemy definitely doesn't want you to see this one. But this actually reduces your divorce rate to 0.1%. So it's a 1 in 1,000 protection. Does anyone know what that is? It's something you do every day. Yes. Morning and evening worship was the secret that the Hurleys gave me. And that may seem very simplistic to all of you, but let's be honest, as speakers, right? We're pulled in 18 different directions from before the alarm goes off, right? It's crazy. But making that time consistently is what Angela said. Consistent morning and evening worship. And a lot of you feel like, well, I'm just reading the book, from the Spirit of Prophecy. Then read the book from the Spirit of Prophecy. That's okay. You don't have to come up with something amazing. Just heartfelt. Give your kids a hug and a kiss. Tell them you love them. Tell them Jesus loves them. That's worship, right? That's something, right? I always tell people with exercise, they say, well, what kind of exercise should I do? Where should my heart rate be? What kind of thing should I do? Walking? Should I do cardio? I had someone say, should I do HIIT? Should I do this? I said, the best form of exercise is what you're going to do every day. Right? Because even a short worship is better than the greatest worship that's not done. Does that make sense? We're always trying to do perfect, right? In emergency medicine, if I waited to make sure everything was perfect on the emergency thing I was at, the person's dead, like long ago, right? I just need to get it done, right? Just get the worship done. Have prayer, sing even one song. And the thing that I loved is my grandmother, as you know, she lived with me for almost 15 years, and she was the reason why I couldn't come many years, right, to kind of share with you guys. But her attention span was so short that all I could do is sing one hymn, pray a short prayer, and read a few verses and say something. No longer than 5 or 10 minutes, like literally no longer than 5 or 10 minutes. And then she was incontinent again, right? And then we'd have to change her. But that was enough. That was enough. She actually sang along with us, even though she had a stroke. And I just wanted to share that with you as a little tidbit. I didn't even charge you for that one. I gave the Hurley secret away. It's morning and evening worship, because don't you want your kids to be saved, right? Raise your hand, right? But not only saved, these kids are involved in ministry. There's only one other family that I know that has that. Did you know that? There's only one other family. Do you know who they are? They're a singing family. I'll give you a hint. The father's a physician. Yes, it's Neblitz. That's the only other family I know. And believe me, I know a lot of people. I know a lot of speakers. The network is small. We all know each other, and we kind of know what theology this person has, but they don't share it up front. But anyway, that's another presentation. But that's the only other family I actually know. And that's the other family that I'm going to try to, delve into their secrets. But as a physician, I'm going to share you my level of expertise here, which is secrets to living longer. And I wanted to just say that this is not something new. This is something that's been around forever. Ponce de Leon was looking for the actual physical fountain of youth for many years, but he never found it, right? But that doesn't mean we haven't stopped trying to fake it, right? We still want to be younger, right? We still want to look as we were. And a lot of people think, well, how superficial is that? People who dye their hair, right? I had a woman one time tell me, I said, well, why do you dye your hair blonde? Because I was born blonde. So God made me blonde. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not true now, but that's okay if you want to do that. Or people will say, oh, women are so vain. They're just doing this makeup and all this stuff. They're trying to look younger. But did you know that guys are always looking for that supplement too? We want to be strong. We want to be young. We want to be virile. We want that lean mass back. We want those biceps to be guns again, right? It's true. I'm just telling you, we want that back. And people say, well, how superficial is that? But I want you to know it's actually not as superficial as you may think. Because remember that when the first leaf fell, just a falling leaf, something we enjoy, right? But what does that indicate, that falling leaf? It indicates death. And do you know how Adam and Eve responded to that falling leaf? Ellen White says they mourned more for that falling leaf than men now mourn for their dead. Can you imagine when the first gray hair came out on Eve? She probably just passed out because she realized that she was dying, right? And that she would now cease to live. And I don't know how long they had been living. Maybe they had been living for a long time before, right? So I want you to know that if you feel this way, right? If you feel like, man, all these wrinkles, all these gray hairs, what's going on, man? There's something wrong. That is not you. That's what God has placed in you, because you were never meant to die. You were never meant to get old. You were never meant to grow weary. You were meant to run and not be weary, and to walk and not faint, right? That is what you were meant for. But despite that, we find that we all seem to follow the same path. I want you to know that I'm actually working, some people tell me, Tim, you never age, or you age in reverse. I'm actually doing an age reversal program on myself right now. And I have evidence, from just a few days ago, I have 3 hairs, and I can show you pictures of them if you want. But they are growing black again from being gray. Which if you look online right now, I challenge any of you, and see if that's possible. Online wisdom, they'll say that is impossible. But with God, all things are possible. Now, I'm not quite ready to release that one yet, so I'm not doing that series right now. But I might drop a few hints here and there, so please come and enjoy. But it seems that we all seem to follow the same path. And even if I follow my age reversal program perfectly, eventually I will die, right? Is that not true? Eventually I will go all gray. Ellen White says that Moses and Aaron had fully gray heads for many winters, right? That's kind of the way she puts it. But they died in what kind of condition? Were they stroked out? Were they like this? Were they what? They died in what? They walked up that mountain, right? Without any problems. Remember, Caleb, he was 83, and you know what he said in the Word of God? He says, my strength now is what? The same. How old was he when he first went to go enter the promised land? He was 40. Can you imagine? He says, my strength now at 83 is the same, right? As when I was 40. I don't know if anyone else could say that. It's like that song says, I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was, right? I don't know if you'd even be as good once at 83, right? And compared to 40, right? You remember when you were 40, right? Or maybe you remember when you were 30 or 20. I don't know where it was for you, but for him it was 40. And he said, my strength to come in and go out is the same today as it was when I came in the promised land. And he not only was strong physically, but he was strong spiritually. Because which area did he choose? Which mountain? And who was the mountain guarded by? The sons of Anak, the father of Goliath, right? The largest and most difficult, the most face-staggering, right? And remember, these guys were tall, right? These guys were huge. People like Og, Ellen White describes him as head and shoulders amongst a race of giants. His bed was 14 feet long. Did you know the Bible tells us that? Can you imagine? Caleb's here, he's 5'8" or whatever. He's like, ankle shot, ankle shot, ankle shot. Whoa, ankle shot, And he took him out by the power of God, right? That's what we want, right? It's not the number. We want to finish our course with strength, as Paul said, right? We don't want to be debilitated. We actually don't fear age. We fear disability. Many people I know, they say, I'd much rather have a heart attack than a stroke. I said, but why? I don't want people turning me, wiping me. Are you kidding me? I'd rather die. Isn't that true? That we want not just quantity, but we want quality. We don't want the grave, right? Our organs were designed for so much more. Did you know that they've looked at the human brain and they found that the capacity of the human brain is much larger than they once believed? They estimate that the average person only uses about 3 to 5% of their brain capacity. People like Einstein and Schweitzer, they use maybe 7% of their brain capacity. They feel like that this organ was not designed for 79 years, the average lifespan, but it was possibly designed for many hundred or thousands of years. They're not sure, but we know it was designed for eternity, right? Now, these individuals don't live for eternity, but they live a lot longer than everyone else. And the first place we'll go is the land of the rising sun in Okinawa, Japan. These individuals find themselves living approximately 3 or 4 years longer than the rest of us. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot to you, but in science, that's huge. They have a lot less heart disease, a lot less breast and prostate cancer. They have a plant-based diet, but they have something that's called Ikigai. Very important. And I want to focus in on this because it's not about always what you're eating, but what's eating you. Does anyone know what the number one cause of death in the world is? It's not COVID, don't worry. I'm just telling you, like, even though it's number 3 cause in the United States, that's weird, right? What's the number one cause of death in the world? It's heart disease. Very good. Absolutely. Now, it is heart disease, but does anyone know what is changing and slowly taking its place? In Norway, in fact, this is the number one cause of death in Norway now. This is absolutely fresh study. Anyone know? That's coming up. Yes, in all countries. That's gone from like cause number 40 to now top 10. In every industrialized countries, Alzheimer's is now top 10 pretty much. But this is number 1 I'm talking about. In Norway, it's number 1. Cancer. Who said that? That's correct. That is correct. And what they're finding is that this is a lot more complex than just the plain plant-based diet. In fact, I was sharing my mother, she actually has breast cancer. Nobody has any cancer in my family, pretty much. And I'm not saying that this is the case, but we'll just say she got the pineapple twice here and the re-pineapple one more time, right? And the tumor is right here. It's not even the breast. It's like in the tail of Spence, which is kind of like the way right here. And I'm just saying that's a pretty near distance, isn't it? I'm not making any implications, obviously, right? But it just seems a little weird for me, right? But what's interesting is when my family members are sick, they get la creme de la creme de la creme de la creme. Like literally, she's at Loma Linda. She has the top experts. She has people that are my classmates taking care of her that I know pray with her every single visit and ask the Lord for healing every single visit. And I've known them since I was at Loma Linda. I know what kind of person they are. They're God-fearing Seventh-day Adventists and they're experts in their fields. I took one of my classmates. She only does breast. That's all she does. She only does breast cancer. And the most amazing thing is even though she's very intelligent, she's a huge heart. Dr. Tori is her name. And I went to have my mom see her, but the insurance didn't cover. Have you guys ever dealt with insurance? No, you can go to see anyone you want right here in New Zealand, I'm sure, right? No, I know there's a big problem with that. But anyway, she wanted to see her, right? The insurance denied it. Says, you're Loma Linda. She's outside of Loma Linda's network. She wouldn't take money to see her. And she sat down for an hour and talked to my mom. How many of you have ever had a doctor sit down? Have you ever had anyone sit down and talk to you for an hour, really, right? That's so rare. We're like LOL, TTYL, right? We don't even spend time with each other anymore. But she sat down and with my mother and just listened to her for almost an hour. Gave her the correct diagnosis, treatment plan. She says there'll be no chemo, no radiation, no surgery. We're just going to kind of lower those hormones, and that's all the treatment you're going to have. And I'm like, wow, that's a little different approach than I'm used to, right? People always lose their hair, whatever. My mom hasn't lost her hair. She's like stronger than ever before. She's like, I feel like I'm young. And I'm like, yeah, they're messing with your hormones. That's why, Mom. So she's like, I feel so energetic. It's great. I'm like, good. So it's pretty amazing. But I also consulted one of my friends who's an Adventist committed. His brother actually was baptized in one of my campaigns in Scandinavia. And I said, you're a PhD. What are you doing a PhD in? He's like, well, I happen to be doing cancer cell biology. I'm like, Lord, you are amazing, right? So I said, I want the most cutting edge research. I want the freshest of the fresh of the fresh. And, I'm thinking he's going to give me some kind of technology, some monoclonal, whatever. He's like, I'm fifth author on my latest paper, and it's actually showing that it's sleep. And I'm like, what? Can you believe it? Yeah, I bet you can believe it. It's true. He says, if you don't get enough sleep, especially the deep sleep, right? A lot of you have those little things that monitor. It actually monitors your deep sleep and REM sleep too. Because deep sleep, you don't move. You're like, right? So it's the deep sleep that they're finding that is actually reversing the cancer. Because that's when your cellular DNA repairs itself, right? That's incredible. So let me tell you, my mom sleeps at like 8:30 now. So it's fantastic. But Ikigai is very interesting. Ikigai is quite possibly, I feel, one of the reasons why we not only succeed physically, but why we succeed spiritually. Ikigai means the reason that you get up in the morning, right? And the reason Pastor Doug gets up in the morning is to do ministry, right? To serve others. And his first ministry was his family. He had the priorities correct, right? Because there are some friends of mine who are big into ministry, but their family is just like, goes to pot, right? So that can happen too, right? You've got to have it in the right order. So for Fumiyasu at 84, his Ikigai is the Senior Olympics. His favorite event in the decathlon is the pole vault. Anyone here at any age can do pole vault. You can do pole vault? Praise the Lord, Christian. That's phenomenal. The other thing they have is that the Okinawans, they eat more, but way less. How is that possible, right? They grow their own food. That's incredible. There's so much power in that. The literature is so clear now. Did you know that if you buy some greens, kale, collards, right? Arugula. I don't know what your big green is here. What's your big green here? Kale? Okay, so kale. Is there anything kale can't do, right? So you have kale, right? And did you know if you harvest that, and if it's 2 weeks old, it's lost a third of its nutrition? Did you know that? And now how much of the stuff in the grocery store is a week or two old? It's impossible to get it fresher than that unless you got it, right? Right? That's the best way to do it. And you know who told us that? The nearer the vine, the greater the blessing. Who said that? The servant of the Lord, right? You'll find that most of my presentation is always going to come back to Ellen White. So if you just want to know all the answers to everything, just follow Ellen White pretty much. That's how it goes. And people say, oh, but you're exalting her and this and whatever. And they say, oh, if we followed the Bible as we should, we wouldn't have needed Ellen. Have you ever heard people say, and I said, yes, but we didn't. So we do, right? Let's not even talk about if this, because if this was back there, right? We didn't do that, right? That's like saying if Israel had done their job, right? But we wouldn't be in existence if there'd be no Adventist church if Israel had done their job, right? Because their kingdom would have embraced the whole world, is what the servant of the Lord says. If they had actually done it, that was God's design, not for them to go and destroy and conquer the earth, but to convert the earth back to Jehovah, right? That was God's design. They have a lot of plant-based things in their gardens, but what's very interesting is their actual lifestyle that rotates around that garden incorporates many natural remedies. Serie Toguchi is 104 years old, and he not only gets exercise in the garden, he gets fresh air, and he gets what we're enjoying right now. I heard that actually I didn't bring the rain from Seattle. I brought the sun from Seattle. Or maybe you brought the sun from Lodi. Wait, both of us are coming from like flood zone or rain zone, right? So praise God that we've got this sunshine. And I want you to know that what's incredible about the sunshine is that even for COVID, did you know the half-life of COVID in sunshine is just minutes? Did you know it's one of the most powerful things to eliminate it? And the other thing behind that is ventilation, sunshine, heat, and humidity. And they're like, well, what do you know? What a novel idea. Whoever came up with something like that, right? Well, someone I know actually said, open the drapes and the windows to the healing rays of the sun. It will fade your carpets and your furniture, but it will impart a healthy glow to the cheeks of your children. You know who said that? Ellen White, right? Well, what do you know? She actually knew how to treat COVID. What do you know, right? Yeah. So he's getting not only the natural remedies of fresh air, sunlight, exercise, his, fresh produce. He's getting a little rest right here, but the interviewer couldn't resist. He said, Mr. Toguchi, I must know why the red gloves. But that's exactly what we're like, right? We always want to know, not the basic stuff, not the stuff that's obviously right. It's got to be the red gloves. It's got to be something. It's got to be the supplement that he's taking. You know, that jar that Riesenberger's got. I got to get one of them. It's not the jar, right? Although the jar is also based on the spirit of prophecy. Did you know that? She said it is preferable to can food in rather than tin. And what's another word for tin? What's a metal? Tin. Aluminum, heavy metals, right there. She knew about it already. Aluminium, yes. She knew about it already, didn't she? Right? So why do I drink out of glass? Spirit of prophecy, right? I don't want aluminum. Because people say, well, I use stainless steel. And I hate to tell you this, but if it says stainless steel and made in China, do you know what it's made of? Aluminum. Yes. I'm sorry, I'm half Chinese. I'm just telling you, we make stuff really cheap, but we're not very honest. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. I'm not saying that with pride. It is what it is, right? So why do I use glass? Yes, it's also the spirit of prophecy, but that's not the big thing, right? If you look what she wrote about things like herbs, right? Have you ever seen the Ellen White herb book? It's this big. All the statements she ever wrote about herbs is this big. Do you know if you collect all of her statements on lifestyle, what it comes to? Huge amounts, right? So we always are looking for the magic bullet, right? When I was in college, I had a very big interest in natural remedies, longevity already then. And my friends, I went to Stanford, I went to Loma Linda, I went to some crazy, crazy high-powered schools. But it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. That doesn't necessarily give you wisdom. Right? I'm just telling you that right up. Not saying that they're unintelligent. Like literally when I came into this sort of environment, you know how they say, well, I'd rather be a small fish in a small pond than or a big fish in a small pond than a big fish in a large pond. I was just a small fish in the gigantic pond, like in the ocean, basically there at Stanford. And I'm telling you, when I had friends, they'd say, hey, Riesenberger, you got to give me that hydro stuff. Give me the herb. Is there an herb? Do this. I need to get an herb, man. Because I'm getting sick. I feel like I've got a scratchy throat. I've got congestion. I feel these body aches coming on. I know it's going to get me. And I just know I can just knock it out. I know I see you do that like crazy thing. You scream in the shower in the morning, right? It's cold. It's cold here, by the way, right? You get some cold. Anyone enjoy the cold water here, right? Yeah, it's good. And so I know that's working for you, man. And I just say, well, how many hours of sleep have you gotten in the last couple weeks? Oh, that doesn't have anything to do with it. Maybe 3 or 4 hours, but I'm studying for my test. But I know if I can get the contrast shower. I know if I can get No! You need to sleep is what you need to do, right? But we don't want to do that, right? We always want to look at there's got to be some magic bullet, right? So the interviewer is no different than us. He said, Mr. Taguchi, tell me, why the red gloves? And he just said, they're easy to find. That's what he said. I'm just telling you, that was the interview. I heard it. I read the interview. That's what he said. The other thing they do is what's called a moai. Now, a moai is a group of people who go through life together and help each other. I want you to know that this is so important. And we in the Western world, we don't like this. We all want to be on our own, independent. I can pull myself up from my bootstraps. We have legalism built into our culture in some ways, right? But God didn't design that. In Galatians it says to bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. But each man shall bear his own burden. So in other words, don't mooch off people, right? But connect with people. You need to be connected with people. Call people up. It's okay, right? It's okay to ask for help. Right? That's fine. Now I'm going to ask you this question. A moai is a group of people that you see at least 3 or 4 times a week. Anyone do that? Raise your hand if you see a group of people 3 or 4 times a week, but they got to be not related to you. That's the key. See, that's different. Oh, wow, Micah. No wonder you look so good. That's great. I love that hair, like the volume. Too. No, that's good. Listen, you could be Taylor Fala'au. I can't remember his name. He's like some football player. He's got the Head and Shoulders commercial or something like that. But he's like got this. His hair is insured for $1 million. I can't remember who it is, but it's an actual NFL player. But he's got some good volume. But I think that's the key here is that many of us are interacting with our families, but we're not connected in other ways. Right? We're very kind of isolated. You know that Ellen White says that we should know all of our neighbors and their spiritual condition. She was a big social person, right? She talked to her neighbors about their crops. Hey, how you doing? Whatever. But we're not like that in the Western world. We're like this, right? We're kind of keep to our own sort of thing. But I'm just telling you, try to get a group of individuals who you get with 3 or 4 times a week. I mean, even if it's just on the phone, even if it's like, hey, how are you guys doing? There's a reason why our church grows so rapidly with small groups because It's a moai. It's not the small groups work. It's that moai works, right? A core, right? And what did Christ design that as, right? How many disciples? And how often did they see each other? Right? Were they related? Right? It's not just about being close to your family. It's about being close to the family of God. To have some people. One of my relatives, they were not going to church for a while. I was very worried about them. And I said, I was worried that you guys, we go to church every day. I said, but where do you go to church? And we attend regularly every Sabbath. And I said, no, but where do you go to church? We have home church. And I said, with who? Oh, my spouse. That's not church, right? You need that connectedness, not just for the fellowship, but for accountability, right? A lot of people who don't talk to others, right, and interact with others, their theologies start going off. Have you noticed that? Where they're not having, mate, that's a little bit far west of even the Bible or anything. That's not what the Lord says. So try, if you can, to connect with people in person if possible, right? If not, do it some other way, but try to do it 3 or 4 times a week. Pray with each other, pray for each other. But now I want you to know that Okinawa is losing its longevity edge. It now has the highest rate of obesity in all of Japan, and that is due to the fall of all modern civilization. The Golden Arches. Dun, dun, dun. Did you know that the mayor of Loma Linda tried to keep the McDonald's out of Loma Linda for many, many years? As soon as he was elected out, McDonald's got in. I mean, there's some good things about McDonald's. I mean, hey, this tomato's really good for you. Lettuce, that sesame seed's probably pretty healthy, but everything else probably not so good. Our second blue zone is Sardinia, which is an island off the coast of Italy. And it is a village called Silanus. Now, actually, don't say this in Italian. Actually, this means someone's mad at you in Italian. So you have to be careful about that, right? But in Silanus, you will meet Tonino. Tonino is 75 years old. He still works a 12-hour day. He splits wood. He slaughters sheep. He repairs fences. How many of you could work a 12-hour day in your 70s other than Doug Hurley? Other than you, right? How many? Not many, right? Not many. That's pretty serious stuff. The other thing with the Sardinians is that they have a paramount importance with the family. They eat together once a week with every single person related to them. Did you know that? How many of you can say you eat together once a week with everyone related to you? Well, that would be the entire Adventist church in New Zealand because you're all kind of related a little bit, right? No, that's true. In one of the Scandinavian countries that I was speaking in, and I'm sure Christian knows this, but there's only 10 families of the entire Adventist church. Now, it's like the second, third cousin sort of thing, but they're all related. They're Carlson's their last name. That's the hint for you. But anyway, that's interesting that they have made family priority. And I'm just trying to tell you right now that family's got to be priority. You've got to be connected to your family. Even if you're sending messages and they're not replying. Does God ever send messages and you don't reply? Have you ever heard of that? Who knows who Peter Vessels was? Who has a real trivia? Very good. Other than Doug Hurley, who knows who Peter Vessels was? A few people. I'm going to tell you that Peter Vessels was the pioneer of our work in South Africa. A pioneer, stalwart, staunch, powerful, committed to the Lord, but he drifted away. And I want you to know that the servant of the Lord continued to faithfully write letters to him. Did you know that? Unresponded to. Even though he did not respond to her, she continued faithfully writing letters. Can you imagine? She gets a vision from God. The man has not replied, Lord. This is the 14th letter I'm sending, but I'm so glad that she just obeyed the Lord. So that man got letter after letter, and the letters got progressively more serious. God will take everything from you. God will remove everything you have. Even though right now you sit on immense wealth. She used that phrase. Did you know that? But God will remove it all. He is not dependent upon this. He wants you to obey him. And finally, he was penniless, bankrupt, right? And weeping. Yes, exactly. And he opened those letters. He opened those letters from Ellen White. And he had actually had to sell his property, which at the time was the Kimberley diamond mines. Did you know that? Out of which has been taken close to 1 trillion, I didn't say billion, trillion diamonds to this day. You think it's important to listen to the prophet? I think it's really important. But my point there was not the importance of it, but that God doesn't stop. He continued to command his servant, send him another letter. I just wrote one, right? Send him another, send him another, send him another. And there was a stack of letters that he had not even opened. Did you know that? Until he was reduced to nothing. And that's the thing, is that God doesn't give up. So even if your family is not even responding to you, I just want to encourage you, keep reaching out. You don't know what they're doing with those letters. They may not even be opening, but the Spirit is striving with them. My mother was not speaking to any of us. It was so bad. And she finally she lived in a gated community. She told the guy at the door, no one is to visit me. And it was Christmas. That's how bad it was. And so my brother, my sister, and I'm like, we got to go visit Mom. And we got to the guard and he said, she has given me strict orders that no one is to visit her. I'm like, it's Christmas. And we show our IDs and he's like, I'm not looking. So we went there, we knocked on the door. First thing she says, I told him I didn't want anyone to visit me on Christmas. And I said, Mom, we're your kids. And she's like, well, you can come get a drink and maybe use the bathroom, but then you got to go. Right? And we got in there. We just started to smile and talk. We started singing a couple Christmas songs. And my mom, who had not talked to us in many, many, many years and had not talked to me in 3 years, because when I became Adventist, when I called my mother, she would either hang up the phone or yell at me, then hang up the phone. That's all I got for 3 years. But I kept writing postcard after letter after postcard, handwritten. Those are gold now, right? You can't even find, those are like in museums, I think, handwritten letters, right? So I would just write and write and write. And she finally, near the end of our visit, she went into her room and she came out with a box weeping. And she said, I've kept everyone. I've read everyone. You wouldn't give up on me. And neither does God. He doesn't give up on you. So the family is so important, so important. Even if you don't hear, just keep writing. I believe with all my heart, if you text that person, they're not going to look at it. If you call that person, if you give them a handwritten letter, I promise you they're going to read that thing. But even if they don't, like Peter Vessels, right? God wants you to display his love to your family. His love doesn't stop because you stop responding. His love still, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. His love doesn't change toward you because your love has changed toward him. Because I'm the Lord, I change not. Right? I have loved thee with a everlasting love. That means it never, what does everlasting mean? It never stops, right? I can't even put my mind around something like that. Unbelievable. So the Sardinians actually live to 100, the same ratio. Like who typically lives longer, men or women? Women, right? But in Sardinia, right, men live just as long as women. Maybe I should move to Sardinia, right? That'd be great. But they also live an active and outdoor life. But does geography help? Some people have wondered because it's an island, right? And it's isolated, so is that possible that it helps? Giuseppe, you have to say Giuseppe, right? He's 85. Now, when does a typical person retire? 65, right? In my country, it's like 65. I think I can get my 401k at 59 and a half or something like that. But it's about 65. Now, what's interesting is most of us criticize the person who's always working, always doing. They're like, that person's crazy. But I'm telling you, it's better to burn out than rust out. It is better because why? Most of us would say, hey, you're 85. Why don't you take a break? Well, if he eats this, he may actually die prematurely. But anyway, he's 85. And they asked him, I said, well, don't you ever feel tired? And you know what Giuseppe said in the interview when I read it? He said, I feel tired all the time. And they're like, well, why don't you stay home? He's like, if I stayed home all day, then I'd be sick. Have you thought about that? That's very interesting. Many of you are tired of working, but that is better than the alternative. Do you know what the worst thing for somebody is when I see them in the ER? The worst thing the number one risk factor to know they have disease, it's disability. Did you know that? If they're on disability, have you known anyone on disability who's like, yeah, I got a new coaching service going. I'm like super strong. I got like this online business that I started once I was disabled. I travel. I go to Tonga. Have you ever known anyone on disability that's ever told you that? How abundant their life is now on disability? What does their life look like? The internet, right? Some kind of vice, usually, like some kind of drug or alcohol, right? That's the thing, is we weren't designed for that. God designed us to work, right? He designed us to be a blessing to those around us. What's interesting is that the grapes in Sardinia have 300% more of the antioxidants in the soil. So a lot of people say, well, that's not fair. I can't be in Sardinia. It's an isolated island. I live in the city. 80% of them are direct descendants from the original founders. So they all say that it's what? Genetics, right? And isn't that what most of us say? Well, I'm sick because, my father was overweight. My mother was overweight. They all had diabetes. They all had this. And here's the thing, is that I don't want to be crude to anyone, but there's a meme that a guy actually gives a very profound genetic analysis. He said, it's not that diabetes, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol run in your family. It's that nobody runs in your family. But that's profound. That's simple, isn't it? Nobody runs in your family. That's the problem. But I tell you, even God runs sometimes. No matter how culturally inappropriate that was back then, when was the time that he ran? What parable? The prodigal son, right? He ran, even though for a Jewish patriarch to do that was absolutely taboo. God is willing to break taboo to reach you, right? He's willing to depart from cultural norms because he loves you that much, right? And that's what we need to have for others, to those connected to us, right? Obesity now affects 10% of Sardinians. You know what it is in my country? Close to 40%, not 25, close to 40% obesity. Now we're finding that it's not just this category. Did you know there's a new category of obesity? Like there's 10% overweight, that's overweight. 20% is obese, 40% is morbidly obese, but now there's a category called uncontrolled obesity. Did you know that? It's crazy. Did you know what, someone give me 3 types of diabetes. Type 1, type 2, what else were they called? The gestational? What else was type 1 and type 2 called at one point? Yes, adult onset or juvenile, right? So this is very interesting. Adult onset diabetes. I went into a room and I can tell you there was a girl with an earache. And people think, oh, it's just an earache, right? And so I walk into the room, the nurse walking out, I said, I want a blood sugar. She's like, on the 6-year-old? I said, yeah. Because an earache's not a big deal. Unless you're diabetic or have HIV or something like that. It can be serious, right? Now, the reason why I wanted a blood sugar on that 6-year-old is that she was 90 kilos. At 6. Now, is that the child's fault? No, I mean, that's a parental issue. As much as you want to blame Ronald McDonald and Grimace and everybody else, I'm sorry, that's you. That is not the child, right? So she was 90 kilos. And I checked her blood sugar, and it was 12. I think you use millimoles. Is that right? So it's 12, like off the, super high, right? 12 is high, right? And what type of diabetes was that? Yes, that was mature type 2. That's right. I will give $100 to anyone in this audience that can tell me what type 3 diabetes is and the mechanism of action. Go. What's the mechanism? That's correct. Alzheimer's. What's the mechanism, though? That's close. That's close. I will give you a free visit to your church. How about that? Just pay the ticket. But that's interesting. The mechanism of action is very close. It's insulin resistance. So the brain cells, Jedediah is correct. Type 3 diabetes is Alzheimer's, right? And it's the same mechanism. People say, hey, I need a diet that lowers my blood pressure. I need a diet that prevents cancer. No, I need a diet that prevents heart disease. And I end up telling them the same thing all 3 times. What do you know, right? It's just all that simple. But it's insulin resistance, right? Insulin resistant, just like in type 2 diabetes, but it's just in the brain. But what they found, do you remember when all these people on coconut oil instead of butter, they all woke up from their diabetes? Do you know why that is? It's because that doesn't need insulin to get in. So those shorter chain fatty acids, the myristic and lauric acids in coconut, it just diffuses right into the cell. Doesn't need insulin. And that's why some of them, I'm not saying all of them, but they took nursing home residents and they replaced the butter. Instead of butter, they just put coconut, virgin coconut oil in there. And some of them started to talk because now their brain cells can actually use that fuel. It can't get any sugar, right? Because they're still insulin resistant, but they can burn the fats now, and now they can wake up. So that's actually pretty close. I think that's the closest any audience has come. I did that in my last audience.
So I didn't understand the question, but it's because the fat coats the cell and you can't get the insulin.
Well, yes. What happens actually is that if you have too much fat in the cell, that's really the thing. And some people will say too much fat in the bloodstream, too much fat in the cell, too much fat on the spare tire. Basically, the sugar backs up. That's the mechanism. Sugar isn't the cause of diabetes. Sugar is the result of diabetes. But all of you all have been going to autumn leaves every year, so you know that already, right? Of course. Also, the problem with Sardinia is there's only 2,400 of them, so it's not really that strong of a sample size. But here's the question. What about me? I don't live in the country. I don't have my own garden. I don't live on an island. I don't have strong genetics. Can I live to 100? Yes, because our last group is a group of happy seniors who live in the worst air quality in the United States of America. Did you know that? Smoggy Southern California, sweet home Loma Linda, where the skies are hazy blue, right? One of their champions is a nurse, Marge Jeton, right? She was actually married to a physician. Did you know? He lived to 98, but she lived to 100 and renewed her driver's license, not by eating these things, right? But despite of being in the city, right? Not all of us are in the country, but in spite of her being in the city, she was very, very healthy. Now, just to comment on doctors, by the way, doctors have one of the shortest lifespans of any career. Did you know that? We have the keys to the cabinet. That's the problem, right? Many of us get divorced, right? We go through the midlife crisis and we're like, oh, man, here I am in my 40s, 50s, and we want to, trade in our wives on a new model. Sometimes they're not even married or life crisis. They still want the new model, right? That's the thing that's the problem is that in Filipino culture, they said old cows still want young grass. And that's the thing is that we have the strange mentality that we think that if we can just have the right wife, the right residency, the right publication, the right academic appointment, that we'll somehow be healthy. But that's not how you're healthy. That's not how you're healthy. It's not those things on the outside. It's the things that are really basic. This guy is Frank Shearer, still water skiing at age 100. Did you know that? How many people can water ski in this audience? Ah, wow, that's pretty good. How old are you? Yes. No, you don't have to tell everyone. That's fine. But doesn't she look good to water ski? That's pretty impressive. That's very impressive. No, that's okay. You don't have to tell me. You can tell me privately. But anyway, the point is that this guy stayed active, right? It's not that he had special skis. He probably has planks or something like that he was using back in the day, right? But he's just staying active. He's outdoors. He's in the fresh air. He's doing something. It's not the complicated stuff. It's not who you're with, the trophy wife, the academic appointment, the residency, the big bucks, the big car in your driveway. It's not those things. It's being outside in the sunshine and fresh air and being vigorously active, right? That's not complicated, I hope. Dr. Ellsworth Wareham was one of my professors at Loma Linda. I was in the OR with this man. Now, how many of you would allow a 91-year-old to operate open heart? Be honest. Would you have the 91-year-old do open heart surgery on you? See, right? Because what are you afraid of? Oh, sorry. Here, repair that. Oh, no, repair that again. Right? Exactly. That's what you're worried about, isn't it? But I want you to know that Dr. Wareham's hand was rock steady. And not only was it rock steady, the most impressive thing about Dr. Wareham in the OR is whenever there was a complication not caused by him, it was like one of the other junior residents or junior doctors, he would just say, oh, okay, suction here. Okay, ligate here. Repair there. And we wondered, I'm like, why is this guy not concerned? This person's bleeding out. It's their heart. And the thing was very simple. That was a complication, but there are many complications. But he stated simply, he's like, I've seen them all. Because he had been doing open heart cardiac surgery longer than any of us had been alive in the room. He had seen the complications, right? And he wasn't upset by them because he knew what to do. And he would just calmly but firmly tell you, okay, do this now, right? He would slowly ramp up if you weren't doing the right thing. But he was very calm and relaxed because he had already seen those complications. And of course, the last blue zone is the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We were talking about a man who lived to, was it 232? Was it 232? I think Pastor Sam told us about a guy from China. But anyway, I've never seen that. But this individual who at 112, she was already among the oldest 20 people on the face of the earth. And the question is it good genes? Is it divine intervention? And the author of the article actually said this. He says, God may or may not have something to do with it, but their religion does. This was an atheist guy who confessed that the Adventist church, religious-wise, had an advantage. And the neat thing is that the very oldest are not isolated in the country. Now, I'm not saying you should sell your country home. You should be in the country. But I'm just saying, don't be discouraged. I've had people say, I don't have a garden. I don't have a country home. I just might as well drink soda, right? No, that's what my friend said. I had gotten her on this exercise program. It was very similar. And she says, Tim, I did everything you say, but I missed one set, so I might as well go home and eat pizza. That's what people do. They feel like if they do one thing wrong, they've got to just throw it all in. Don't do that. It's okay. Christ can forgive. Christ can help you. Christ Jesus came into the world to save who? Sinners, right? Not people who have it all together. I did not come to call but, right? Exactly. So if you're like, but Tim, I'm not righteous, then Jesus is just for you. That's the answer, right? So many of our people are not in the country. They're not in cities. They're all races, but the common bond is their religion and lifestyle. So let's take a look. Summarize. Best of all worlds. They have plant-based diets, mostly. They don't smoke. They don't drink alcohol, generally. They're family-oriented, and they have daily activity, except for the Adventists. We're like 10% for that, guys. It's really, really bad. And I'm just telling you, as a speaker, don't get offended if when we talk together, I want to take a little walk at the same time. I'm serious, right? Because that's like the only exercise we're probably getting, except for like pacing back and forth, which the cameraman I know really hates when I do that. But that's about the only exercise we're getting as the speakers, right? So don't be too offended if we want that, a little activity. This is an old chart here, but I wanted to use it because of the very interesting graphic. This is Newsweek. Is that religious? Not at all, right? But the first one is you're a female. What's the second one? You are Seventh-day Adventist in a secular publication. Now, I have to confess, the giant red arrow was added by me. It's not actually in the real article, so I have to confess. But another thing's even more amazing. You should look at the whole chart. But watch this. Do you see what this says here? Who can read this out loud?
Started formal schooling after age 8.
6. No, do you know why he wanted to say 8? Because there was somebody, I wonder who, that said kids should be as free as lambs until 8. Right? Now, this is a secular publication, not about education, not about learning. What is this about? This is about physical longevity. Better late than early. Now, this is a secular publication verifying and affirming what the prophet says. Did you know that? Brother, the rocks are crying out. The world knows more about the truth than we do, right? They're already way ahead. They knew this when? 2011. Why aren't we sharing with them? Why aren't we sharing the truth? We're allowing them to be ahead of us, right? We're sending our kids to these, diabolical sort of schools, right? But they know, hey, my kid's not going to have formal schooling till later. It's better for them.